We welcome you back to Buffalo Wild Wings, where our crowd here and on social media are ready to pepper Coach Farrell with questions in our Ask the Coach segment, and a little different twist from the audience as one of your players has a question for you.
Oh, that's great.
What are the chances of me starting the next game?
Right, can Oshie start? Well, it boils down to this. It's like how sharp he is. We know that he's a goal scorer. We know that he creates problems in the final third. We know when he gets inside the 18, defenders hate it. But what happened was he got very ill after the Nashville game and was in bed for a week, and really only got out of bed a day before we traveled to Birmingham. And you could see that the amount of chances he got in that game, normally he'd put them in the back of the net. There's probably 2 or 3 chances he could have scored from. I just don't think he was sharp enough. So we'll take a look tomorrow in training, and we'll see where he's at.
We would love to have Jordan in the lineup, obviously, Thursday in Knoxville. Let's go to Twitter, and this is from @DaveWillie. This is related to Copa America and the heartbreaking ending for Argentina. And it's a question I get a lot. Why go to penalty kicks in championship matches? Why not just play until someone scores?
Well, I don't know why. I mean, I can only give you my opinion, and I think at some stage you have to go to a penalty shootout. They tried the golden goal for a while in different competitions, and whoever scored the next goal won it. I think really it came down to the health of the players. When you look at the physical contribution of players in a soccer game versus maybe some other sports, it is so testing on the body that I think it's basically down to a health decision. You can't ask people to go that far and play that long and play for 2-3 hours at what they do when you really look at a soccer player. So my guess is that it's a health decision more than anything else.
And I'm going to play devil's advocate on that for one, and this is the argument I always hear. Look at what hockey does in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Those guys are just as a taxing sport, and they play till someone scores. So.
Well, they do, but you can pull a lineup off at any time. You can't do that in soccer. You can pull the lineup off, and they sit them down, they send another lineup in. Slightly different rules. Understandable that they can do that, and it takes some coaching, management, and to do it. But you can't do that in soccer. They've got to stay out there. And if we had to go to, say, on our Saturday night game that was tied, overtime, and overtime, and overtime, say it was one of those games, 95-degree heat, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I don't think we would ever want that in the regular season. I think it's more the championship matches. People want to see a real ending, right. And you
well, look, here's something for you. Why don't we? It's crazy, but I've always thought about this. When we do the extra time period, why don't we pull it down to 7 players, 8 players, get the most creative players on the pitch?
That is
and there's a lot more space.
A
lot more space, and you will see great players take people on and try and score great goals instead of having the 11 players, because as you've seen in the Euros, the teams that sit behind the ball don't give goals away and are not chasing the game are the teams that are coming out on top. If you take a few of those players away and open the field up, you might see the brilliance of some of our best players in the world just go win it in overtime.
I think that would be awesome. Let's go to the Royal Court Roundtable for a question. Joey Miracoli wants to know your best moment of the year in all of soccer starting in January. I have a feeling it might have occurred in the last couple weeks with your homeland. But I may be putting words in your mouth.
No, you're right. It has to be Ireland, So my local, my club teams back home didn't do as well as I'd like them to do. Ireland have been in the Euro Nations Cup and doing as well as they did. And going home with pride, heads held high, tremendous performances against teams that have better players all over the field than they did, and to walk away with a nation with the pride that they had, and to come home to that reception, having lost a game to Italy today, they came out great reception, and then you look at England, who you have a star-studded team. Will go home to people that are tearing them apart. They that have no pride in the nation. So when you put that in context and you look at both sides, and you look at both nations that are just across an ocean, a sea from each other, you have to say that the Irish making the Euros and then doing as well as they did, with the amount of players and put their effort in, and the fans that went to support them, it doesn't much better.
And you mentioned England. I have said this to you early in the tournament. I think they are one of the most underachieving teams in all of sports, given the star power that they have. They've got one World Cup, and that was 50 years ago, and they've never made it to the Euro finals. Time for another question from our audience.
Coach, we have struggled so far on the road this year, only getting 2 points out of, I think, 3 or 4 games. With the playoffs down to 3 spots for 4 teams in our last 2 games, being on the road, what can we do to fix these problems and get 6 points on the road?
The 3 league games that we played, one was a road trip that 2 games were played. We played Nashville first, and we played Memphis in a 5-day road trip. The games were a day apart. We had a day off in between. The Nashville game was a bad result, but we weren't as strong as a squad. We still had players coming in, and I think it was a game we could have won if you saw the highlights, but they did beat us well. So we go into the Memphis game looking to either steal it, we have second game on the road. No other team has to do this, by the way, what we do. And then the second game, legs are tired, played a brilliant game, could have won it 1-2, 3-0, but a superb game. So we take a point. And then last week, we did the same thing against Birmingham. We played extremely well, and we took a point. Generally, if you want to make the playoffs or win the league, you want to win all your home games, take a win on the away game, and try and get a point out of every other game. So I wouldn't say that we're bad on the road. I'd say that the 3 games that we've played, in 2 of them we're extremely on the strength early in the season. And the Birmingham game played, I'm not afraid to go away and play games. We could have won it, and having said that, they had 1 or 2 chances on the counter-attack that could have hurt us. But that's what you deal with on the road. It's a very close league.
One final question, this also from the Royal Court Roundtable, and it is from Terry Allen. Another road question, going against Chattanooga, away will be tough. What will be the game plan in the last 2 weeks, and will we ever see a 2-striker formation with Kenoshi and Reed up top?
We may as we go forward. Reed was unavailable this week, and I knew that he was unavailable this week before the season started, and I'd made that agreement with him. Kenoshi was sick for almost 10 days. Deathly sick, to be fair, and it's just come back. So if he's sharp and Reed is sharp, it may be a good possibility. It might be a great strike for us, but there's other players that have done well as well. The road plan is like, we won't look at Chattanooga until after we play Knoxville. So
biggest game of the year.
You can't approach a game, even though we only probably need a tie to be secured playoffs. We have to go win the game, but we have to win it in a smart manner. And if our mentality is not to go win that game, then we are weak. I think England were weak because I don't know that they really knew they were going to win. And I hate to say that. I just came off watching that game. Right. But I think we have the mentality to go win the game and put the right tactics in. So possibility to see Kenoshi and Reed together, it might be very good, but both of them have to be sharp, have to be able to finish, have to apply and execute their games very, very well, and we'll see that in training. On the road trip, we ain't looking past Knoxville. We're a good enough team to win this whole conference, and we're thinking about one thing, beating Knoxville.
Thanks to everyone who participated this week, and we will do it again next week.